Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and in the last video we talked about how to survive in the Netherworld. And in this video we're going to talk about how to get the maximum amount of loot as quick as you possibly can and kind of the most efficient way possible. Now if you don't know what the Netherworld is, it's kind of the final endgame mechanic right now for the Slormancer, and you're able to, once you beat bosses, get chests like this, which will give you the option of 3 different legendaries. These are going to be a little bit curated basically off of what the tile set says it's going to be, but you can re-roll these as well for a chance to change them into different things or to get nether pieces of gear. Nether gear is basically the end game tier of gear here, and as you can see it goes all the way up to item level 120, and it has the ability to have stats grafted onto it at the blacksmith. And the stats that you can craft onto here can be different stats than what you can normally get. And so you can basically graft any base stat onto any other base stat, basically. So my boots, for example, have movement speed and raw. If I wanted to put movement speed on my shoulders, normally you couldn't do that, but with grafting you can. And you can put movement speed on every single piece of gear if you so desire. You could go out and put magic find or goldest find, or really anything that you want. Another cool thing is you can take a legendary mods and put it on this gear as well. So if I, for example, really wanted the sandals of speed effect, but I was already using a different pair of boots, kind of help my build, well, I could just put the sandals of speed legendary effect onto a ring. And that would be something you can totally do. It does eat one of the 3 grafting potential that an item has, but that's not really that much of a big deal. Now, let's talk about how do you get these rewards. So the way the Netherworld works is that you have this giant map here. And this is unlocked once you get through the first 2 sections of the Adam Nostrus trials. And you have all of these little zones that you can pick from. Only some of them are going to be available right off the bat. Only the highlighted ones will be available. And you kind of have to clear your way into the middle and clear out everything. Once you do that, the primordial Netherworld will open up. And this is pretty much just a max level, level 10 tier zone here. And you'll be able to farm. Everything here is at level 100 now. The gear is just slightly better, I guess you could say. And the amount of pure stat chance you're going to get goes up. And so you can see here that goes from 150 to 300 and 25 to 50 for the minimum score increase. Now, pure stats are the other major thing that you're going to be farming out of the Netherworld, which means you're first going to want to take a bypass over here to the Slorm Temple. And it took me to 220, 225 to really cap out the pure stats here. So we talked to Olerin, we can see that we've maxed out the pure stat max score and the chance. This is really important because you want to be able to drop these pure stats that have really, really high rolls. Pretty much something being pure just means that it's higher roll than what it normally can be, but not that it's necessarily perfect. And the number of exclamation points it has tells you how close to being perfect it is. So we see here the raw damage is 6377 out of 6609. And so it's almost perfect. Whereas the max life is only 3238 out of 3680. So while it's high, it's not necessarily perfect. And so you want to get these scores up, and so that you can potentially, get, better gear. And the way that this works is that when you click on a tile set here in the Netherworld, you'll be able to kind of see some information about it. The enemy types never change, neither does the Cataclysm. You can't get around that. But what does change is for normal maps, there will be a pure stat that's increased in likelihood to drop in this particular zone. It will only drop on pieces that it can normally drop on, so you can't get that movement speed on shoulders normally. But this will, increase the chance of that happening when it drops on the right item. And then this is going to build up your nether charge. Now, nether charge will increase based off of your influence with the zone, which we've talked about a little bit before. With the Adam Nostrus trials, you had to reach influence level 50. And so pretty much however high your influence is with a zone, you can press P to check the different zones here. It's going to affect how much nether charge you're going to get per zone here. So I can see that if I go over here, I'm getting 21 per zone, or 19 over here, Most of them are going to probably be like 19 or 18 or so. And so pretty much what we want to do is we want to farm things that give us the pure stat that we want. And then or just farm zones in general that we think are easy to build up our nether charge so we can go fight bosses. Bosses will always have an array of different legendaries that they are potential to drop from. And what we're doing here is we don't necessarily want to go and farm the boss that drops the exact legendary that we want. Instead, we want to farm the boss that is dropping the legendary type that we want. So right now, for example, I am just missing boots on this particular set of gear. And so what I would want to do is go around and click until I find one that has 2 or more boots so that I can go and farm that. And it would increase my odds of getting boots, because I don't really care which legendary I get. As long as I get a nether pair of boots, I can recraft the entire thing to have the right legendary stat, to like have everything. Now, sometimes you're not going to find one of these bosses that has like 3, there can sometimes even be 4 of the same item type, but sometimes you can get a little bit lucky here. But just because you farmed up your nether charge all the way to the max doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to drop this. You see here baseline at like almost no nether charge. We're at about 6%. And what will happen is at the very end, there will be a treasure chest that will have 3 legendaries in it. And you can re-roll each one time for 100,000 Slorm. And that might sound like a lot, but it's not really all that much once you kind of get into Endgame, as you can kind of see over there. And sometimes you'll still miss, which kind of sucks because you're like, I didn't get the nether thing I wanted. However, this one did have like multiple boots. Like, what do I do here? Is there any way for me to reset this? And indeed there is. So let's like go here and go into the boots, and we'll show you kind of an example here. Now this is kind of one of these scary ones. So I'm just going to flip on the fire bow real quick so that I don't explode into a million pieces. But pretty much as you go through here, you're going to notice that everything is always going to be a cataclysm, which makes these pretty scary. If you haven't watched my video about how to survive through having tons of scary effects, I have a whole second video that talks about like being tanky in the Netherworld, because like, for example, this fireball here that's chasing me hits for 500,000 HP, but I can just face tank it because, you know, I am immune to fire damage right now. And as you notice though, you also do drop a lot of other materials, and these other materials are very useful for gearing up. And actually this is how I farm gold as well. We'll talk about the very best zone to farm, because there is actually, I think, 2 different zones that are better than all of the rest in order to farm, but we'll get to that in a bit here. So I'm going to show you this example. But yeah, it's pretty much just clear out breaches until you go and have cleared enough. And typically it's going to take 2 to 3 zones. Sometimes it'll be 2, sometimes you'll have to go and clear like 1 or 2 in the 3rd zone. But you just go run through like so. And it's pretty easy. Kind of like once you get a handle on it, and like if you can handle the always persistent cataclysms of that zone, it's not going to be all that bad. And once you kind of have like the defensive layers that you need for your particular build, it's also just really not that bad at all. And like, yeah, I just think that this is pretty fun overall, because you're always having like lots of random effects going on top of the normal scary stuff. And the normal scary stuff can be pretty scary, but it's just like, okay, so you're telling me that every single person is going to explode on death here, and then on top of that, I can potentially get a whole bunch of other negative mods as well. It can be pretty difficult and challenging for your character, especially early on. But once you kind of like get things going, I think it's quite a bit easier. And the video that I was talking about does cover how to do that. We're almost done here. Once we fill up this meter all the way, should be good to go. Maybe I should have cut this part. I don't really know. Do you guys like seeing gameplay in the videos, or you prefer if I just like talk the entire time? Let's go challenge the warlord here. Now, something to note is that the guy is going to summon ads, and they have to die. Like the boss will be immune if you don't kill the ads. And that can be pretty challenging, especially in these maps where there are a ton of ads coming in, and they all explode on death or something, or leave a shadowy clone afterwards, or, you know, a lot of negative things. So we've beaten the Warlord, and if we go and we crack open this chest, we're hoping to see Nether boots. And we find a Nether chest, which is not really what we're looking for. We probably will take this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-roll these two things. Wow. Okay. So each of these has whatever our Nether chance was going to be to hit Nether. And so we didn't hit 3, but, you know, 2 is actually pretty crazy. I'm going to take this. Now, one thing to note here is if I take this portal, it is going to change all of the rewards on the entire map. And so no longer will that particular node have 2 boots on it anymore, and it will have changed. So we can see here, now it has 2 rings, a belt and a bracer, no boots at all for that. And so if I hadn't hit Nether there, I would have wanted to escape by pressing the L button up here on the map instead of taking the portal, because that does not reset the zone. And so I can get more chances at the Nether type that I want, as opposed to having like, okay, where's the zone that has multiple boots in it again? Now, finding any Nether piece at all, even if you don't take it, will also reduce your Nether chance back down to the baseline, and you'll have to farm up your Nether charge again. So here in the Primordial Nether Realm, it's 5% just baseline. And so even if I didn't take that piece, like if I just like left this on the ground or left this in the box, it wouldn't matter. It would reduce the charge. Now, pretty much what we want to do now is just figure out like the fastest and best way to go and farm up Nether charge, right? And since every single map has a, I'm gonna switch to Magic Find here real quick. Since every single map has a guaranteed cataclysm, I kind of wondered to myself, is there a cataclysm that's a positive to have as opposed to a negative? So things like enemies not receiving damage for 1 second restore their life. That's not really positive. Any enemies exploding isn't positive, but there are 2 that I think are definitely positives to have when you're considering farming. The first one I checked out here was Cataclysm Replicant. Enemies have a 100% chance to summon a copy of themselves when they reach 90% life. This is pretty good because, you know, double the enemies, double the fun. Problem is, I was finding that if you kill an enemy from 91% or higher all the way to 0 HP, and they don't actually hit 90% HP or lower, they don't summon a duplicate. So it's kind of a little bit of a bad thing for me. I did lower my damage a little bit to try to make this work. But there's one that's even better than this, and it does basically the same thing. And this is Cataclysm Reincarnation. Enemies have a 100% chance to be revived once upon dying. And this is just absolutely crazy because this gives you double the enemies. And so what I tend to do is just go and farm this zone over and over and over again. I farmed up right now, I have 52 million gold, just farming this particular area, running through all the way to the end, and then running out the portal. However, there's one more thing that you can do here. And actually, I'll show you what this map looks like comparatively. And this is with my gold find setup here. As you can see, I have most of the damage numbers turned off here. I'm just kind of see all of the gold and resources kind of just flooding into us. And typically, like, doing one run of this will take me about 4 minutes, and we'll make about like 1 million gold or so, which I think is pretty decent. But our gold is fine setup is not 100% complete. Right now we're chilling at a big 968 gold is fine. There's still a lot of room left to go. I think that we could very easily hit 2,000, maybe higher. And doing like a magic find setup like this is pretty good because, well, this also helps you find pure stats as well. And you're going to need a ton of goldus for endgame farming and stuff. And so just very nice to have. I'll do a build video on this in particular in the future here. But yeah, this is pretty much what the map looks like. And so it's kind of absolutely crazy. We're just going to abandon this and leave. So we can see like in that 1 minute, we are in 162. Not really all that crazy amount, but you know, not that bad either. Now, what I recommend doing though, is just farming this particular zone over and over again. You don't have to do a gold find, just do fast. And this zone will always be in the royal wing. And so what you could also do is go to the expeditions and just run this expedition. So you go down here to the bottom, click to the right, force it to be on the royal wing, and just farm to your heart's content. Bosses don't really give you extra influence with the zone. I think you get 12 influence per breach that is closed. So it will take a while to kind of level this up. Right now we are at 42 out of 100. You don't get influence for whatever reason in the Netherworld, but I think that this is probably the best way to farm right now, simply because you can get lots of, you know, money and other drops from enemies, because you're getting double the enemies basically for doing the same amount of work. Now, another thing to note is that if you do not take the portal out of this zone, you will not get the Nether charge. So you have to go all the way through until you get the portal back home and take that portal back to get the Nether charge. However, if you don't take the portal, also the rewards don't reset. So if you happen to get a pure stat over here, that's something that you desire to farm, you can sit there and just farm this zone over and over again until you find enough of the pure stat stuff that you're looking for. And so I did this for a while, because while I was setting up here, I was like, oh, the map has Goldest Find on it. Do I want to have a full set of Goldest Find gear on the base? I mean, I kind of do. So maybe we'll just take all this stuff. And so what I can do with this is I can go and, like, you know, put flat raw and Goldest Find on a chest like this, and we'll be able to, like, really kind of like juice up our Goldest Find like this. And like I said before, the Nether gear allows you to, you know, transfer stuff onto here, even though it doesn't match normally. So normally you can't get Goldest Find on a chest base stat, but with this setup, you can. So we'll be able to take our gold find build all the way to the moon that way. And this is just a really smart way to go about doing it. Now, you could potentially wait until this zone or this zone has like Goldest Find, for example, or you could just go around and click around until you find the stat you're looking for and grinding this over and over. I just think that these two zones are way better than the other ones, simply because they have double the enemies, double the loot. It's pretty impactfully noticeable. Here, let me actually go pull up my pictures here. So this is pretty much like a screenshots from the game before. I think I can find ones here. So like in a normal zone here, we're getting like 5 minutes and like 1,300 enemies slain. Whereas like in other zones, you know, you kind of go up quite a bit here. So like in the prison here, for example, we got 1,210, taking about 4 minutes to clear. Whereas in the double monster zone, we're getting 3,439 monsters. Does it take a little bit longer time? Yeah, but I'm also intentionally nerfing down my damage quite a bit right now. Because, oh, you actually couldn't see that, I'm sorry. I'm intentionally nerfing down my damage a little bit here. So yeah, here we go. 6 minutes, you can see 34, 39 enemies slain, versus like going here to the prison. We only have like 4 minute run with 1,200 monsters. I'm intentionally nerfing down my damage a little bit for the Magic Find build, because you really don't want to one-shot things for this particular cape. Whenever you deal damage to an enemy, the first 3 hits have a 20% chance to drop Goldest, and so you want to make sure you're actually at least hitting them 3 times. But yeah, that's pretty much my tips for that, is that you want to go get yourself probably a little bit of influence with a Royal Wing, farm this area. The nice thing is that this area over here is also the Royal Wing. So the Royal Wing is just absolutely stacked for having good farming zones. Those two ones I think are the best. So farm the Royal Wing up a little bit, get yourself some influence, and then go and just spam run all the way through these until you build up your Nether charge, and then go and look for the bosses that have the items that you want. So like this has 2 gloves, that might be pretty good. We have no double ups here, and I've seen like 4 rings before in one zone, and that pretty much like makes it a lot more likely that when you get a Nether piece, it's going to be for the slot that you want. Like here, for example, this has 4 wow, this one's super juiced. This one has 4 helmets or 3 amulets. So I know for sure that if I just spam farm this, I can 100% get a nether helm and a nether amulet, because I can even take the nether piece out and then abandon and run away, and it will reduce my nether charge down to 0, but it won't reset the scorecard or the, you know, the reward card here. So we can just keep farming this. We just mine away until we have the things that we want. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, I kind of don't really need that right now. I think I have an extra amulet in the bank somewhere, so it's not something I'm going to go farm. But if this was like maybe a different slot, that'd be a different story. Hopefully this video helped you out. Like I said, we have a couple more videos coming out. I'm going to do a magic find, gold is fine, huntress build. I'm also going to be doing a kind of like my end game max roll damage build guide as well. Having a little bit of computer issues lately. I'm probably going to have to reinstall Windows 11 here, so pray for me. But thank you guys for watching, and come by the stream. I'll see you soon.